Welcome back to Hollywood Impact. As always, it's Christian McCray and Eric Grubbs.
Hello there.
So, once again, all right.
I've been working on my Obi-Wan all week.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You get my validation. How about that? This is our second episode of the Star Wars Week special, where today we're going to be talking about the original trilogy. So if you haven't checked out our previous ones about the prequels, you should check that one out. I'll put a link in the description. A New Hope.
A New Hope.
Classic Star Wars movie, the first Star Wars movie, and one of my least favorite Star Wars movies.
No, you know what's weird, though, is that when I was a kid, these are the ones I grew up on, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't call it A New Hope.
It was just Star Wars.
We called it Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
We didn't call it A New Hope until the prequels came out. I'm like,
crazy?
oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Isn't that crazy?
You didn't like A New Hope?
No, I've said this in one of our other videos. Can't remember exactly which one. Pretty sure it was Dune. But it is very hard for me to rewatch this movie. Come on.
Why? Because Luke's whining?
Why? Well, yeah, not just because Luke's whining about power converters and whatever. And
wanting to go to Tashi Station.
I don't think Luke is a super great protagonist in this movie. I mentioned that last time, but Luke is my least favorite part about Star Wars, about A New Hope. Not Star Wars as a whole, sorry.
Okay,
about A New Hope.
Episode 4.
About Episode 4,
okay.
A New Hope, a.k.a. Star Wars to you.
Yeah.
Because, one, yeah, he's really whiny, and I'm a pretty patient person, but out of all the things that make me impatient, I'm a little bit impatient with complaining. And therefore I'm going to complain about about Luke from Star Wars, but it just becomes irritating where he says things that I'm like, I think someone needs to punch him.
Yeah,
just
I get it.
One good time. I think someone just needs to be like, shut up and listen. Love Ben Kenobi, Alec Guinness, rest in peace.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Him. I love him, and he's great. Harrison Ford, Han Solo, hands down my favorite character in the original trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Besides probably Darth Vader. But other than that, come on. Let's be honest. The acting's not that great.
Well, it
was like the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, but it was a different time, dude. You got to understand. This was like groundbreaking.
Oh, for sure.
This was like the first. This is 1977 is when this was released, and it changed movie history.
Yeah.
It changed things.
For sure.
So it's kind of like, the early, like the first two Rocky movies. Mm-hmm. It's just different time, movies made in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I understand how it might drag a little bit in parts, but just, I don't know. I will admit one thing is that I am biased to this original trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I admit it. Again, like I said I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up on this stuff, and I love it. One thing that I didn't like was back in the 90s, Lucas went back and redid some of this and added different scenes and added some special effects.
And those looked weird.
And some of it was very out of place.
Yeah. Like with Jabba.
I hated the Jabba CGI.
It's weird.
That whole scene was not even in the original. And I can't find my old VHS tapes, before all these edits were put in. Mm-hmm. But that scene wasn't even in there. With Han walks around and steps on his tail and all that.
Yeah.
They should have just left that alone. And they shouldn't have had Jabba in the prequel in Phantom Menace just because he looked weird. Didn't look like Return of the Jedi Jabba that I liked.
It looked misplaced.
But so I am biased towards this, but I'd really like to see the original, how it was shown in the theaters again.
Yeah.
Because I wish Disney Plus would release that.
Yeah, the original cut.
Original cut.
Absolutely.
Just to see how different it is.
And that's fair. And I'll give it its due credit. It was groundbreaking, especially for a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
When a lot of sci-fi movies, there's only a few of them back then that were absolute great movies. A lot of other sci-fi movies around that period of time are really strange.
Yeah.
And so the fact that this got the following that it did is awesome. And, A New Hope is definitely a big part of that for sure. But I have to be careful when I say this because I don't want to piss too many people off, but this is kind of how I'm feeling in the moment. So it's kind of like saying, well, when the first iPod came out, it was groundbreaking. It was something completely new, completely different, and people latched onto it and loved it. But would I rather have the iPod or my iPhone 12? And it's like, well,
You want the 12.
of course I do.
Yeah.
Because even though I appreciate it for what it's done, that doesn't mean that over the course of time that it's still perfect and flawless. It may be perfect and flawless compared to the other things in its time. Even still, like, it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's just one of my least favorite Star Wars movies because there's a lot of downtime, a lot of bland scenery. Of course, they spend a lot of time in
Tatooine.
about said Naboo, yeah, Tatooine,
Yeah.
and Mos Eisley and whatnot. I like the characters. I liked Darth Vader, liked Ben Kenobi, liked Leia, liked Han. I liked all the characters, but it's some of the in-between stuff and Luke being kind of like a whiny protagonist that it's a little bit more difficult for me to rewatch this and have the same enjoyment without pulling out my phone in the times that I don't like.
When I rewatched this, when I was seeing the Obi-Wan and Vader, when they finally meet again in their lightsaber duel, I'm thinking like, okay, I get how this younger generation could like not get behind this.
Yeah.
Because you guys saw the first ones, you saw some cool stuff first.
For sure.
Whereas, me as a kid, this is the first time ever seeing it. So I had no like frame of reference or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now there is a YouTube video out there that some guy did that he redid the battle.
He remastered the batter. The batter.
The battle.
He remastered the batter. And it's really good.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's super good.
Like if that
Go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, if that was in that movie, it would be so cool. But I understand your generation's impatience with A New Hope.
Well, it's
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, it's like if you were offered at the ease of your convenience, if you were offered a 2024 vehicle or a 2001, I mean, most of the time you're going to take the 2024, especially if you're younger, because you are conditioned to whatever new comes out is kind of like what you have, and so going like it's not like you're downgrading, because I don't want to say that it's a downgrade, but it's like, oh well, you could watch the classics, but they don't have as good A, B, C, and D. So why would I want that when I have these that have good A, B, C, and D?
Yeah.
And so but I don't always agree with that, but I think that's just kind of how we see it sometimes. But that's not to say I don't love the original trilogy, because I do. I like it more than the prequel trilogy, for sure.
Yeah.
But this movie in particular, I find it difficult to go back and watch.
Yeah.
But the next two.
Yeah, let's get into the next one.
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
Best Star Wars movie of all time. In my opinion. It's pretty close.
When we rank these, it's probably my number one.
Yeah.
Also.
And it's so good. It's so much different than A New Hope.
Yeah, I mean, we go from, I spend a lot of time on Tatooine in the first one to starting off in Hoth in Empire, and just that whole change of scenery and all that. It's kind of as a kid, I was scared watching Empire Strikes Back. Like, I was stressed about a lot of stuff. Like, when Luke gets attacked by that monster at the beginning, and then
Wampa?
The Wampa.
Yeah.
Or what? Well, he's riding a Wampa, isn't he?
No, then what's the...
I don't know. The nerds are going to get us.
The beast.
The nerds are going to get us.
Come on, feed the beast. Yeah.
But no, when he's hanging from the ceiling and it takes, gets his light. I mean, as a kid watching this, that stressed me out. But it was so cool when Han Solo takes the lightsaber and cuts the thing open and then like puts Luke in there. I'm like, this is weird.
It is weird, but
you got to keep him warm though.
It's weird, but it still fits in. It still fits in the context of the universe.
Yeah.
Because the Star Wars is kind of a weird universe.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't hate that. I do like that Han actually had to use the lightsaber. I wish we could have seen him do something else with one, but of course he's not a Jedi.
Yeah.
But I think growing up as a kid, and even up until now, I think Hoth is still my favorite planet in all of Star Wars. And it probably could be due to my bias of this movie. But this movie, when I was watching it when I was younger, the first one I ever watched was The Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones. Then I watched 4, 5, and 6. I wasn't allowed to watch Revenge of the Sith until I was 13. Thanks, Mom. And while everybody else had seen it 5 years before me. So I love you, Mom. But this movie, Empire, solidified that I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it will always hold a special place. And not only that, but like the acting shores up quite a bit, straightens up significantly. Luke is no longer like whining. Yeah, he whines sometimes. Like he does that kind of with like Yoda because he's impatient.
Right.
But when you get the context that he's like a lot like his father, that kind of makes sense for his character. And so Luke is much easier to follow, and you root for him a lot more in this movie. And Han does some really awesome stuff. His sacrificial moment is so good. Darth Vader is as the most intimidating movie villain in all of history, even more than Thanos and stuff like that. There's something about Darth Vader that's like, no matter what you're into, if you were stuck in a room alone with this person, you'd want to get out.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to mess with this guy.
Well, and for me, this was my first introduction to Yoda too, on the Dagobah system. Yep. And he was kind of it's a lot different than prequel Yoda. He's kind of goofy.
Well, he is goofy, and I was gonna say, like, when I first watched it, I was like, why is Yoda so weird? Like, he's so chill in the first, and in the prequel trilogy, but he kind of does it all on purpose, not only to like hide his identity, but he's testing Luke's patience. Yeah, and I'm like, that's really smart, actually.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until you just said that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay, that makes sense now.
It took me a while to piece it together that he's doing it a lot on purpose to kind of test the boundaries of like his personality and what he's capable of. Yeah. And so he wants to get a real good sense of who he's dealing with, of who's approaching him, and of course he pretty much figures it out right off the bat. He tells him all sorts of stuff, but it was goofy at first. He's messing with the food, he's messing with R2-D2, and you're thinking, this guy's like, that's not Yoda. There's no way. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he gets going, like he like flips a switch, like back into the wise character, because now he's like, okay, now that we're settled in, like this is who I am and this is what we're about. It gives more. It gives more of a broad conceptualization of the Force, and gives him more of like a mysticism towards it. Yeah. And I think that's super cool. It allows us to kind of understand the Force better as a concept, as a whole, across the whole universe, rather than just being something specific like for Jedi or Sith. It's something that now, like, no matter if you're Jedi or Sith, it matters overall over the course of the entire galaxy. I think that's cool.
So what was the deal with, they're on the Dagobah system, and Luke goes and he suddenly sees Vader. What is that place? Again, I
don't know.
And it's like, because at the time watching this as a little kid, you don't yet know that Vader is Luke's father.
Correct.
But then you see, I don't know. I just wondered if you knew what that really was.
And it's actually used in some of the animated stuff too.
Is it?
It's used in the animated series. It's used in the 2D animated Clone Wars TV specials. There were 2 of them. If some of you know what I'm talking about, they're a little bit obscure. But there was 2 less than hour-long movies that were animated that were where Anakin actually explored like a similar type place. It was used in all these other shows and stuff, and video games as well, as on that same planet. I don't really know what it is. Yeah. But I think that it's full of the dark side, is what Yoda describes it, and that's why Yoda stays around. Okay. It's some sort of balancing thing. It's some sort of trial for.
And it's just up to the Jedi.
Kind of like to face their like deepest, darkest fears, and and for Luke it was it was kind of like a revelation that he had not gotten yet, but that Darth Vader was a reflection of something in himself, which he would find out to be his father.
Not to shift gears too much here, but how hot was Princess Leia in this movie? Carrie Fisher was a babe, dude.
I didn't pay attention to that as much as a kid.
Well, in the first one,
I was like, why are we seeing all this? Where's the lightsabers?
In A New Hope, she had the hair like that, and I wasn't a big fan. But then she's gonna doing other things with her hair in this one. I'm like, okay.
You're like, all right.
I'm like, all right. But My point actually is the chemistry between Han Solo and Princess Leia is what was really missing with Padme and Anakin.
For sure.
Because they go and just Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher were so good.
Yeah.
Just the banter they had back and forth, some of those lines was just.
Oh, for sure.
It was just really good.
Han and Leia feels like a more organic relationship, whereas like Anakin and Padme feels like two teenagers that are way in over their heads.
Yeah.
And I think that's on purpose, maybe, but it makes it easier to get invested in Han and Leia's relationship because come on, Leia's awesome.
Yeah.
Leia Organa, whatever, is one of the best characters, and she's so funny. She's extremely competent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like she is like the classic strong, independent female like lead character. Without pushing those boundaries and trying too much to be something, she's her own like individual person, and it's great. And I love that. Like she's one of the people that like she'll push back on other people. She's not moved very easily, so Han will say something, and she'll be like, "All right, screw you, whatever." And so this just goes to show that we love this movie. Yeah. This is a good movie.
And you get a smooth talking Lando Calrissian shows up for the first time.
Lando's awesome.
By Billy D. Williams.
Yeah. And then the betrayal, which is really quick.
Yeah.
And then you get lots of Darth Vader action, and then the fight between Vader and Luke is really good.
It's really
good. And you can tell Darth Vader's just toying with him the whole time. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you've learned some new skills, but come on,
I'm still Vader dog.
Like I'm still the big dog." And then you get the revelation, the thing that changed. The big moment in all of Star Wars history across all movies. And I think that's it's just so effective on almost every level that a movie can be effective on. Characters, dialogue, story, the action, the visuals. It hits the mark for everything. Funny? It's funny.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Well, just the end of that movie just stressed me out so much when Luke is just hanging there, and maybe it's because I have a thing with heights anyway.
Oh yeah, I see.
And then he's just lets himself go.
He's got one hand.
He's got one hand. I don't know how he pulls it off, and then he's sliding through the deal, and he falls again, and he's just hanging there. And I just remember as a kid, like, oh my gosh, how are we getting this?
He could have died.
Then
right
he calls out to Leia, and I don't know, but yeah, Empire Strikes Back is an outstanding movie.
It's an outstanding movie. This is one of the very few movies that I can say is a 10 out of 10 movie. I say that there are very, very, very few things that I would ever nitpick about this movie, and because they're so small, it's a masterpiece movie in my opinion. It's 10 out of 10.
We still got one more in the trilogy.
We got one more in the trilogy.
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Thoughts?
I really like Return of the Jedi.
I like it too.
Because I like just starting off. It's probably the one I watched the most as a kid.
Yeah.
I like starting off doing all the stuff with Jabba and the mission to get Han back. And then we got the space stuff, and then we're on Endor. And it's just, I don't know. There's the one thing I don't like is I think of all three of these movies, Lucas tooled around with this one too much.
Yeah.
The whole scene with the
Ewoks and...
Well, not necessarily the Ewoks, but the band playing in Jabba's palace. It's like, okay, we're going to have a big musical production now. That was not in the original. I mean, there was one, but nothing like this. And it just kind of took me out of it.
There's a lot of things like that in that movie that kind of give you a hint of what he was wanting to do with the prequel trilogy, which he does.
Yeah.
Like extended weird music scenes with like bars, cantinas, and things like that, and like very strange places for dialogue. Some of that is in this movie, and like introducing a lot of like new alien characters that people may or may not latch onto. Luckily, people love Ewoks and don't love Jar Jar.
I hate Jar Jar. I don't mind the Ewoks.
Jar Jar's annoying, but like
Jar Jar sucks.
I kind of knew someone in high school that was kind of like Jar Jar, so I guess for me, I was just used to it. so like watching it nowadays, I'm like, oh, it's this person. So I'm like, it's whatever. I'm not going to say their name because, but
with all the stuff that he did do, wouldn't it have made sense at the end of Return of the Jedi when Luke takes the mask off to have an aged Hayden Christensen? behind that mask instead of the dude we got. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you're going to add all these different scenes and change things in the original trilogy,
why wouldn't you change it to that?
Why wouldn't you change it to that? Because in Empire, if you watch the original Empire Strikes Back, whenever Vader is talking to the Emperor, it's a different actor.
Yeah.
You know, they went back and they made it Ian McDiarmid, I think that's his name, and they changed the dialogue of it too. So why not go back in Return of the Jedi instead of having this guy that we've never seen before, just have an aged, scarred Hayden Christensen? Because then when he pops up as a Force ghost, it makes a little bit more sense for Luke.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, because they changed the Force ghost. In the new one, but they didn't change the actor. Yeah,
but they didn't change the actor when he was taking the mask off. So why didn't they? You know, come on.
Come on.
Like, of all the changes to do, that to me, that's like, why didn't you just do that one?
Yeah, I understand that. See, other things in this movie that were kind of weird. There's a couple of dialogue things, like Vader or somebody else would like talk to the Emperor and be like, "The rebels are doing this," and he would just turn around and goes, "Yes, I know." And he wouldn't say anything else. I'm
yes, I know.
Well, if you knew, would you do anything about? Of course, he thinks he's got all this master plan going on. But I will say, the action scenes are really cool in this movie.
Yeah,
and like I love all the goofy fights on like Endor between the Ewoks and the Stormtroopers. Like, yeah, is it stupid that Stormtroopers are getting beat up with rocks? Yes, but is it fun? Of course it is.
Well, yeah, and we get to see Luke be a Jedi.
Yes,
like a full-on Jedi. When he's coming in,
dark.
Yeah, he comes in the Jabba's palace, and he's like,
his
palace. He's waving the guys off, you know.
Yeah.
And then whenever he's on that diving board to go into the Sarlacc pit, and then he just kind of does a little twist and flip and all that. It's like, okay,
he's working out.
Luke's doing some Jedi stuff now. Okay.
I mean, he wrecks people in this movie. He's so cool, and even like. I think part of it had to do with the fact that he's, the son of Anakin Skywalker, but I mean, he did beat Vader, and even though I think Vader wasn't using his full power, of course, because that's his son, and that was something that was holding him back, it is still a feat that, I mean, he did cut off his hand. He did, like, by pure force, overpower Vader.
In this movie.
In Return of the Jedi. Yeah. And I think that was super impressive, because you really saw that, like, there's a lot of similarities between Luke and Anakin. And I like looking back at Revenge of the Sith and things like that and seeing a lot of the similarities between Luke and Anakin. And the Return of the Jedi has, in my opinion, the best scene in all of Star Wars.
Which one? The
best scene of all. It's not funny, it's not ironic, it's not whatever. This is heartfelt for me, so I'm going to try not to cry. I'm not actually going to cry. When he is being told to kill Vader, and he throws away his lightsaber and says, "I am a Jedi like my father before me." And I think that is the most powerful thing Luke has ever done. And that is the best moment Luke ever had in any movie. Because he threw down his weapon at the moment of his victory because he didn't want to do the wrong thing. And that's a real testament to his character. It's a real testament to his character.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more of his character later. But in my opinion, like, that bumped this movie up half a point for me, because that's just that scene. When I think of Star Wars, that's one of these scenes I think of, regardless of whatever Star Wars thing I'm talking about. I think about that scene.
And it's so powerful. And the build up to that is when the music build up and Luke's actually starting to beat Vader.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Yeah, and it just kind of builds and then ends with that. Yeah, that is a cool scene.
It is a really.
It really is. But man, that move, like the very ending of that, totally different than the original release.
For sure.
They go to back to the different systems like Naboo and all that we knew nothing about when we first watched this trilogy. Was Anakin the chosen one? Bro's been beat a lot.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think.
I mean, Anakin.
I don't know.
I mean, Obi-Wan beat him. Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah.
Obi-Wan beat him in the Obi-Wan show, right?
Yeah.
And then Luke's beat him.
I think. I think Anakin is the chosen one. And I think that kind of like what Yoda said in the third movie, that the prophecy could have been misread or misinterpreted.
Yeah.
That like it depends on what their version of like balance is. Whereas like some people think that George Lucas's version of that is, having more Jedi, like the balance is making sure there's peace throughout the whole universe. But the new Disney movies and projects and things like that kind of stretch out, like the expanded lore kind of stretches out the fact that the balance may be there were so many Jedi. There were so many Jedi. They were, they had their system, they had their council, they had a very corrupt system. They were blinded by their own arrogance. And so the chosen one is supposed to put things back in order. Whereas like there's 2 Sith or whatever and like 5 million Jedi, and then one of their best Jedi goes over and wipes out, the majority of them. And all of a sudden,
now you got balance.
Now you have a few Sith and a few Jedi.
Yeah.
Relatively, aside from all the games and shows and stuff like that. So that's a good question. But I would say Anakin is the chosen one because he's the one that kind of helps instigate putting the reset on everything to bring things kind of back to order. And it's like, okay, well now we and then all of a sudden Emperor Palpatine gets too powerful, the Empire gets too large, and there's too little peace, and then Emperor Palpatine gets rid of, and so but then all of a sudden there's all Jedi and no Sith, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like I still believe that Anakin is the chosen one.
You know who we haven't given enough love to?
Who?
Besides Leia? Chewie.
Love Chewie.
Chewie's the best.
Love Chewie. It doesn't say a single word. Wow. I was not
Will you
expecting.
indulge me?
Wow. Oh gosh.
That's not terrible.
That's not terrible.
That's not good.
And because of that, I'm not going to try. So, I'll let you have the glory.
No,
moment on
Chewie's
that one.
so he's just, I don't know.
He's a classic, just ultimate friend.
Yeah.
Ultimate friend character. Yeah. He's always loyal. He's got a super sick weapon. He's funny. Oh my gosh, he's so funny.
We needed more Wookiees somehow.
Yeah.
In the whole saga, I don't think we got enough Wookiees.
There were more left after.
I mean, there were some in the prequels, but they were underutilized.
But like they could have used more of them, and they had a battle on Kashyyyk, and they only used a little bit of those guys. But I feel like they could have used more of them later.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, I really
Him
like
and C-3PO and R2-D2, just cherries on top of the cake.
But this original trilogy, man, it's just
good.
Again, it's the one I grew up with. I am biased on it. If I were to rank those, I'd probably go episode 4, 6, or 5, 6, 4 is how I'd rank them. So Empire, Jedi, and then New Hope.
Going like top down. Yeah.
Yeah, top down.
Yeah, I'd be the same way. Be like 5, 6, and 4 is like somewhere down here.
And then as far as I give it an 8 if I'm rating that whole trilogy.
The whole trilogy?
Yeah. What'd I give the prequels? A 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an 8.
I'll give the original trilogy. Yeah, I'll give it an 8. 8's solid. Yeah, because 8. Just go with 8.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk about the next ones.
Next episode.
Which you'll see later.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. Hope you like this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you disagree with any of our thoughts, which I'm sure you do, comment below and let us know. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.